Hi there, Lindsay here. Today we're going to use colored pencils and ink, and I'm going to show you how to make a design that pops right off the page. Let's get to it. Today I'm going to show you how to color with colored pencils on a colored background. This is some pattern paper from Basic Gray. And this stamp is a collage stamp. It's a few years old. It's by Inkadinkado. I don't know if it's still available, but I just really liked the beautiful collage. Here you can see a version colored in, and look how the flower just pops right off the page. I'm going to show you how to get that effect with colored pencils. You may want to select the full screen mode in your viewing YouTube preferences so that you can watch this a little bit closer, and I will zoom in just a bit so you can see it a little bit better. I'm using Prismacolor colored pencils, but any wax-based colored pencils will work. I like to go in first with my darkest color, and I am using Parma Violet. It is color PC1008 if you want to know the exact color. And what I like to do is start to carve away the shadows. So I put in my darks first. You know, putting my glasses on, this will help immensely, I'm sure, with the outcome. Just going in, adding some of these darks in. I like to keep a pencil sharpener handy in case I need to put a point on my pencil. I generally only do that if I'm going right in to the detail areas because I don't like to waste my lead. Not that I've, ever worn a pencil down to its nub before. Then I go with my next lighter color. This is Lilac. It's PC956 if you are looking for the exact color. Crayola pencils will work good. The thing is that you just want to make sure you have an oil-based or wax-based pencil because watercolor pencils aren't as opaque. And the reason these show up against the dark paper so well is that they're opaque. I really prefer to use my wax-based colored pencils on dark paper. When you add the light, that's really when your work starts to get some depth. It makes it opaque, and it blends as you go too. They do make colorless blenders, which are nice if you're working on like a light color or you don't want to affect the colors of your pencils. But I like to blend with white a lot just because it really gives me a nice opaque look. And that's generally the look I'm going for when I'm working with colored pencils. And you could spend more time and finesse this a little bit. I'm going to go pretty quickly because I want to make sure that I can fit this in a reasonable video length. And of course you take your time a little bit more, right? I'd have my face up to closer to this if I was working and not filming a video, but I don't want to get my head in the way, so if you notice some out of the lines here or there, just don't worry about it. And I'm going back in with my dark, and I'm just going to add some of the shadows back in, define some of my lines that I might have lost with the white. And I like to kind of work back and forth between the colors a little bit until I get just the right amount of depth and color that I'm looking for. I also read an interesting tip in Vamp Stamp News. It was a back issue. They said that if you have a colored pencil and the lead keeps breaking when you sharpen it, that you can actually microwave it for like 30 seconds and it will kind of remelt the wax in there so you won't have your lead falling out each time you sharpen it. I haven't tried it, but I certainly have some pencils that could benefit from that. Even as careful as I am, these soft lead pencils the leads do sometimes break, especially if your kids have been using them and they've dropped it. Alright, now I would probably spend a few more seconds on that if I wasn't doing a video, but you can already see how much it's popped out from the picture. Now for the leaves, I'm actually going to go kind of drastically in with some yellow. This is Lemon Yellow, PC915 if you want the number. I'm putting in my brightest highlights with the yellow. As you can see, I'm not taking that much time with it. Oh, then I'm going to go in with my darks actually. See, sometimes I choose to go with my my darkest shades, sometimes I choose my lightest. If it's a really light object, I tend to go with my darkest first, and if it's a really dark object, like a leaf, a dark green leaf, I tend to use my lightest first. I kind of like to get that most extreme value in, but it's whatever you prefer, however you prefer working. I know some people always like to work light to dark, some people always like to work dark to light. I'm usually a dark to light girl. Once I get those values in there, I feel a little more comfortable and confident with the whole process. And I'm kind of going to blend it with this medium value, which is a, it's called Lime Peel. It's a beautiful green, PC 1005. Now, if you have the big box of Crayola pencils, go ahead and use them. This is, the big difference is just the light fastness issue, which means how quickly something's going to fade. A lot of times the working properties will be just as good. I do prefer Prismacolor pencils as far as the other ones that I've tried, just because they're very smooth and creamy. And you can buy them one at a time. If you find a color, like if you're like, wow, I really love that lime peel, you can go to your local craft store or art supply store and buy just that color for like, I don't know, $1.30 a pencil. And you can build your collection that way because there's so many colors. If you buy like the set of 150, all the colors they make, there's a lot of colors you're probably not going to use that much. And these colors do blend quite well. So I would really recommend, you know, if you're on a budget, go ahead and buy like one at a time or two at a time. Mix them with your Crayola pencils or whatever you have and build a collection that way. It doesn't have to be expensive. And this color is, this is lime peel. Hold on. Oh, this really light one is what I want to go to. Yellow chartreuse for some additional lighter colors here. And I'm really blending. I'm coloring really hard. That's called burnishing, and that's what you do to blend. And then I'm just going to go in and redefine my darks with a little bit of this olive green PC 911. If you have the older barrel Prismacolors, they'll have different numbers on them. I still have some of my old barrel Prismacolors from when I was 5 and taking my first art class. They will certainly last you a lifetime if you take care of them. And if you, unless you really love a color, then you'll have to replace it. Indigo is one that I replace a lot. Indigo and terracotta. I like to use those for my shadows. Anyway, we're going to do a little shading here, and I've got dark brown PC 946. And I'm just going to go in here. I'm going to sharpen my pencil to point it a little bit. I prefer a hand sharpener to an electric because it does not break my leads. Electrics can be a little rough on your sharpeners. I know some people will say the opposite, but what I found is that the electric sharpeners are just a little too rough on colored pencils. They're fine on regular graphite pencils, but they just seem to break the leads and just not be too kind to my pencils. And you can also use this dark to carve out some of your detail here. Now don't worry if you don't have that too blended well. You know how I don't do retakes, so we're just going to pretend I'm using proper grammar. When you want to blend your pencils, but you want it to kind of be more transparent, less opaque as you blend it out, try using a marker. This Prismacolor Clear Blender is alcohol based, and it will break down the wax in your pencils and it will blend it out. Make sure I don't have anything on there. Now I generally don't blend, I wouldn't blend this with the Prismacolor because that would take away that opaque look that I want, but I really want this brown to kind of fade out into nothing, so I am just liquefying it with this alcohol pen and dragging it out. Now before you go and run to your expensive Copic markers to try this, you want to have a dedicated pen for this because it will clog like those brush nibs in the Copics. That's why I just keep a Prismacolor marker, a clear marker, right with my colored pencils, and that's what I use to blend it out if I want a transparent blend. Don't go use your brush tip Copics for this. Just buy a, a $4 Prismacolor and just keep it for that purpose. And you could actually, if it dried out, you could use a little denatured alcohol. Or if you didn't want to trash a marker, and I've been using this for years, it's really not going to trash it too bad. You can just use a Q-tip with some denatured alcohol in it. Denatured alcohol is much stronger than the rubbing alcohol. It might give you a headache though, because it's quite strong. So then I just go in, add a little bit of definition here and there. A little bit of highlight. I like to add a little bit, and think of the highlights as kind of the cherry on top. You don't want to overdo it, but I'm going to put a little bit of highlights on my leaves with the white. I would take more time if I wasn't doing a video, just so you know, take your time, enjoy the process. Okay, so there, that really stands out, and before we could hardly tell there was a flower there. Now I'm going to show you another trick that's really fun, and I call this a reverse mask, because instead of like a regular mask where you might you'd stamp that flower on a sticky note and cover it up and sponge around it, we're actually going to use a sticky note to protect our background, our edges, and then we're just going to kind of sponge in some ink. And you can use a makeup applicator for that, or I'll show you what I really like. These are Color Box blending styluses, and they have ones that are like a hard foam that you can heat up with a heat gun and stamp with. It's really fun. They were really popular about 7 or 8 years ago, and that's when I got mine. And I really kind of started to fall in love with them all again and use them a lot this year. It just, they blend so well. They've got, you know, nice soft foam, kind of like a makeup applicator tip on it. And if you do use makeup applicators, save them. Get a Ziploc bag, keep one for brown, one for pink, one for orange, and just save them, because the more you use them, the better they'll blend, because they'll get really, you know, filled with the color, and they'll just blend a lot better. You won't get the little, you know, hard edges. I'm going to just kind of drag it right up to the brown shading that I put in. Now voila, when I take off my sticky notes, I have this beautiful crisp border. So it almost adds like an extra layer without you having to add any more paper or do any work. Now I'm going to show you something else. It's another quick trick that I like. I'm going to take my Score Buddy. You use your Score Buddy, Score Pal, Martha Stewart scoring board, whatever you have. I like the Score Pal because that's what I have, and I think that they kind of came up with the idea, so I kind of like to support the company that comes up with the cool ideas. And plus the owner of the Score Pal company is a peach. Her name is Diana. She's just absolutely fabulous. I'm going to just line this up so I can kind of see where my line starts and where it ends. And I'm just going to roll right down the groove with this piercing bug. This is a Score Pal one, but you can use the regular, it's made by EK Success. You can use the regular EK Success scoring bug if you have that one already. You could also do this on a foam mat if you didn't have a scoring board. The scoring board keeps your line nice and straight, so you'd want to use a ruler if you're using a foam mat. Now the second part to this, to make it really look like stitching, is to take a ruler. You got your ruler out anyway, so I guess you could use your foam board with no problem. And a pen. This is just a Letraset 0.5 tip pen here. My in frame, let's slide this over a little bit so you can actually see what I'm doing. Isn't that handy when I put something in frame? My hand's in the way kind of, but I'm just going to drag it across my dots, and it's going to look very much like stitching. I'll put it up close to the camera so you can really see it. I actually saw this tip from Erin Lincoln on the Creating Keepsakes website many years ago, and it just stuck with me, and I use it all the time. It's a really, really handy tip. So I'm going to put that up a little bit closer, let it focus. See, it kind of looks like stitching. I'm kind of lazy. I don't want to run upstairs to my sewing machine to use it every time I'm going to make a card. I could even go around that if I wanted to, but I think I'm going to leave that just the way it is. And this is going, whoops, I'm out of adhesive. So let's just pretend that I am sticking all this on a card base. We do a lot of pretending in my videos, don't we? We're going to pretend that I'm, you know, using correct grammar and that I am taking my time. So this is actually for an Oriental Stamp Art layout, and I'm not very prepared. There's 2 other little embellishments that are going to go there. Trust me, you'll see it on my blog. If you want to visit it, thefrugalcrafter.wordpress.com. There you go, coloring with colored pencil, reverse masking, fake stitching. Oh, crafty life is awesome, isn't it? Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy crafting!